Welcome to the Good Ride. Today we're looking at the landscape. I rode this with Union Atlas, with my Nidecker Rift Lace, and with my Ride Fuse, as well as my Ride Torrent.
Rode this with my Union Force bindings, Burton Ion boots, and I got it out in the same spring conditions as Beastie.
When it comes to sizing, this 158, yeah, it's a little too wide for size 9 boots, but it was fine for my 185 pounds. Let's say if I was a 10.5, this would be a size I'd get.
6'4", 240, the 163 wide was great. It felt like it supported my weight well, and the width was perfect for my size 12 boots.
When it comes to shape, tapered, directional, and it's got a decent amount of setback, a much bigger nose than the little tail. With the camber, there's a decent amount of camber from just a little before the tail starts to past the front inserts, and then a good bit of early rise. I didn't feel like there was that much camber going back to the tail. It felt more centered between the bindings and felt really forgiving all around. This is a great board for those who want something stable, one footing and flat basing, but it's still very forgiving. Even riding a wide at size 9s, I never felt like I was worried about getting off my game. I could skid a turn very well.
Yeah, I thought the on-snow feel for this board was just very forgiving and playful. It just felt really nice underfoot. It felt like I could just turn it around and do whatever I wanted it to without it really resisting anything. Just a really comfortable ride.
Let's talk flex here. You can see this has a really kind of medium flex. Overall, it's a much more mellow flex than you would expect for a shape like this. This bamboo top sheet seems to have a little more rubbery give with a little bit of pop back. It's not the poppiest of boards when it comes to ollie power, but man, this thing was so easy to butter and play around with. I really had a good time just with the overall flex personality of this. Yeah, I could use a little more pop, but at this price point, it's really hard to fault this board for that.
Yeah, I thought this board was pretty poppy. I mean, when I first got on it, the dampness and playfulness of it, it definitely feels softer, flexy underfoot, but it had a good amount of pop for what you're getting at this price point.
When you take this flex personality and you put it in all types of terrain, I did feel it got a little bucky and bouncy and soft, really uneven snow, but it wasn't bad. It's a very doable all-day ride. Hard micro bumpy snow, I thought it was okay too. It didn't feel terrible when I got it in it. So if you're seeing crowded resort snow on a Saturday, this will be okay, no problem at all. When it comes to speed and base glide, I didn't feel like this is a super bomber. It doesn't have a stiff flex. It's not a super damp board, but it's very competent with moderate mountain speed, and the base glide is good, actually a little better than what you would expect for this price point. So if you kept this well waxed, it would do good enough for you.
Yeah, I thought this board was pretty quick. It's definitely not the fastest board out there, but overall competent speed. It's not gonna hold you back or feel noticeably slow.
Edge hold I thought was competent, did well in some hard patches and some spring snow I rode. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an ice or hard snow specialist, but it's very competent.
Yeah, I thought the edge hold was really good in this board.
When it comes to turn initiation and carving, I'm a size 9 on a 158 wide, and it's not a board I'd want to own because it is a little too big and a little too wide for me. But let's say you were a 10 US, this would be pretty quick turn initiation, edge to edge. And when you get it on edge, I felt like it had a pretty balanced turning radius, but this did it for me, and that was kind of cool. I would say this is a pretty turny board and had that fun across the groomer carve thing going for it, which a lot of beginners and intermediates want a board that's maybe a little more turny than a little more straight liney. Definitely on the turny side of straight liney. The spring out of the turn wasn't amazing, but satisfying enough.
I thought this board was really fun taking it all the way across the groomer. It's a really playful turner.
When it comes to powder, this has the setback on board you would expect for this kind of shape and this kind of style of board. It's negative 3.375 inches back from center of board, not back on side cut, at a 22-inch stance, and at the 163 wide, it's a 23-inch stance with the same setback on board. It seems like there's a little bit of taper in the tail, not a lot, but a decent amount. If you factor that in along with the much bigger nose with a lot of early rise, basically going from the inserts all the way up to the nose, you're gonna have very good float. Overall, I think this is a great one board quiver for directional riders. And at this price point, you get so much from this board. You get a stable, forgiving ride with decent but not amazing pop, fun to turn. That's a common theme with Decathlon. They punch higher than their weight class. This one really impressed me. So if you're at a low budget, this is about as good as you can get.
Don't sleep on these boards. Really good product for the price point.
Highlight of my low budget testing.